morning, Tayo. Can you hear me and see me?
Yeah, very well. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction of Matthew. Matthew Gray is the head of Africa LinkedIn Talent Solution. Matthew has 12 years experience, SaaS experience, and success in both large corporates and startup environments. Currently leads in the LinkedIn Talent Solution business in Africa, where his high-performing team strategically partner with our customer across the region in 3 different ways, which is planning their talent strategy, hire top talent, develop winning teams. LinkedIn Learning is the learning online platform that recommends expert-led courses to your employees so they develop the most relevant, applicable skills. So if you have any questions around LinkedIn and how well you can use to close your competency gaps, I guess Matthew is your guy. And also how best you can use LinkedIn as a tool to hire top talents and build a strong workforce. So over to you, Matthew.
Thank you, Tayo, and thank you to the HR Tech team for having me this morning. I'm just going to share my screen and make sure that we have everything set up and ready to go. I'm based in Ireland currently, and just a warning, my 4 kids have not gone to school yet. So if we see any gate crashes on the video conference, I'm sure you've all been there. That's where we are at the moment. It does say the host has disabled participant screen sharing. I don't know if I can be allowed to share my screen, and then we can get going. There we go. Okay. You should see. So do you see, let me just go right back to the holding slide.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Lovely, lovely. So I just want to take a few steps back. I would hope that most of our participants this morning are LinkedIn members. And whilst I will probably take more of a macro view to LinkedIn, I think more specifically for the HR Tech conference, I will zoom in to what's really happening on the ground with regards to our platform, which I think from a tech perspective, from an HR perspective is good for your insights and knowledge and how best you can leverage the tool. My team's purpose is to create equitable economic opportunity for every member of the African workforce. That's our true north. That's what makes us wake up every day and be inspired to do our best work. And it's all part of LinkedIn's overall mission, which is to connect the world's professionals. And the key word in that sentence is professionals, to make them more productive and successful. And our vision, so I talked about our vision in Africa, but our vision globally is to create equitable economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. This is our true north. And we actually measure this through key metrics in terms of the impact that we're having on first of all, our members. So from a member perspective, what is our value proposition to members? Our value proposition to members, to each of yourselves, is to connect to opportunity. So helping you get the right job, not just any job, build meaningful relationships with your network, and staying well informed. I'm pleased to report that we launched in January this year, LinkedIn's Africa News Network on the platform, driving daily rundown of all news that's relevant onto the platform. We started to build up our LinkedIn influencers in this region, so business leaders who are driving sound and quality content onto the platform, as well as our power creators. So the creator economy is real, it is here. We've seen it on Instagram. We've seen it on Facebook, on TikTok. The same is coming, but from a more professional context on LinkedIn. And what is our value proposition to our customers? Well, it's really fourfold. First of all is hiring. So now in sub-Saharan Africa specifically, we've got roughly 50 million members. Globally, we have about 800, just north of 800 million members. And I'd say 85 to 90% of talent on LinkedIn is passive, or it was pre the great reshuffle. So LinkedIn is a source of being able to engage high quality talent, often passive talent. So we need to think creatively in terms of how we actually recruit those individuals, as well as driving marketing, engaging decision makers, being able to pinpoint very specific buyers of your products and services with key message and drive leads, which leads to our sales solutions as well, and then our learning solutions. And if we look at the far left and the far right, we have brought those solutions together, our hiring and learning solutions, under one talent umbrella. So we talked about our team vision, and I wanted to share very quickly, and this is before I get into my main content, I wanted to give you some context. How do we change our members' lives? How are we creating economic opportunity in Africa? The first thing that we're doing is connecting companies with job seekers. So ultimately ensuring that members are hired, lives are changed. And that has a threefold impact on new salaries being created for families, and ultimately lives being positively impacted. The second one is connecting learners with instructors on LinkedIn Learning. So we have the most incredible opportunity up ahead of us, to drive skill enablement through the LinkedIn Learning platform at scale, to be able to service the need of the global economy. And if we start to marry the remote workforce and the opportunity that exists ahead with the median age of the African working population is significantly lower than other regions, that is the bigger opportunity which we see ahead of us. And we are absolutely aware that our parent company, Microsoft, the likes of Google, the likes of Facebook, they're all aware of this, and they're investing for the future of Africa from a hyper-connected perspective. We're very excited about what that looks like and how LinkedIn Learning can drive the skills that we need to service the globe. And then lastly, through what we call Glint, which is our employee engagement solution, it's driving and understanding the sentiment of our workforce. How engaged are our people? Because we know that an engaged workforce drives greater productivity and ultimately bottom line for organizations. And as we are increasingly in a hybrid or remote work setup, that sentiment, that pulse of our people is of utmost importance to business leaders. So holistically, what we do is we help HR leaders plan their talent strategy through our data and insights. So really being able to talent map through real-time access, in terms of what's happening with our employees, what's happening with our competitors. If we're looking for in-demand skills, where do those skills lie? Maybe other talent pools we need to start thinking about, especially in the light of the high demand for digital skills. Once we can strategically understand how to hire that talent, we can actually build a sound hiring strategy through various means, through jobs, through talent media, employer branding, to drive hires. And then ultimately, once those individuals have joined your company, how can we empower your employees through skills access and skill development, closing skills gaps, as well as driving engagement and understanding the sentiment of our workforce. So that I just wanted to take a step back and take you through our overall kind of value proposition. Before I kind of get into my main topic for today, which was the reinvention of company culture. If there are any questions, please stop me if the moderators can stop me, but I'm gonna kind of get through this moving forward. But every year, LinkedIn does a talent trends survey with thousands of leaders within our space, and as well as our data and insights, and marries that together to assess the trends. And this year was by far and away the reinvention of company culture. We've witnessed a shift in people's expectations of their roles and their working environments. Now, I'm aware that there's been a lot of content on this topic, but I want to give LinkedIn's perspective and view of where we are today, because especially in Africa, I've delivered multiple of these sessions. We delivered one of these sessions yesterday in Uganda. We've been in Nairobi earlier this week as well, not myself, some of my team, and in South Africa. And a lot of the topics that we've presented are very challenging for some organizations that might still be stuck in the past, for lack of a better word. And the time is now to change. So it's important to understand what candidates are looking for, to better understand how you can be a company they want to work for. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explore the core themes that arose and our findings around company culture, flexibility, employee well-being, and the great reshuffle, which continued to shake up the workforce in 2022. So we're really experiencing a watershed moment in company culture. We talked, as I said, to many talent leaders across the world. We reviewed proprietary LinkedIn data from millions of employee engagement surveys and billions of actions on our platform, combined with artificial intelligence, to understand how a caring culture has become the pivotal asset for companies worldwide. And this quote from Judy Jackson, who's Global Head of Culture and Engagement for WPP, who have several assets across the African continent, sums it up nicely. Business is heading towards a place where, no longer is it just culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture and strategy are inseparable, twin pistons driving the same engine. This watershed moment's driven by the acceleration of automation, the rise of millennials and Gen Z in the workforce, and the great reshuffle, not to mention the reshaping of the workforce as a reaction to the pandemic. The bottom line is employees expect more freedom to work where, when, and how they want, with more attention paid to their well-being. And I understand this is an HR technology conference, and that the enablement of what I've just said now is often coming through technology. There's three major transformations we're seeing in the workforce in HR at the moment. One is workplace transformation. The second is workforce transformation. And the third is the digital transformation of HR processes. So the characteristics of human-centered company culture include flexibility, asynchrony, trust, belonging, and a focus on well-being. In order to attract, retain, and grow the talent that will bring you sustained success, we need to go back and examine our company culture, fine-tune, or in many cases, completely overhaul it to meet candidates' expectations. Candidates want to be seen as human beings first, and employees second. When we spoke with Mary Alice Vucic of Thomson Reuters, the global CHRO, she said that she's seeing people wanting a lot more flexibility so that they can fit in, so work can fit into their personal lives, as opposed to fitting their personal lives into work. That's a foundational shift. And you'll all know Gary V. And Claudia Silva, who's the chief heart officer of VaynerMedia, says their philosophy is all about work-life balance. She says, waking up to a collective aha moment. It's no longer about work-life balance. It's actually about life-work balance. And we need to get the ordering right. So there's been an evolution of company culture since over the last 70 years. And even in the last 20 years, we've seen how the rise of tech startup culture has completely revolutionized the workforce and the workplace. Although there's a lot more to creating meaningful company culture than just snacks and pool tables, candidates are realizing that these perks are designed to make the office a home away from home. And today, excuse me, forward-thinking organizations are working with employees to make home an office away from the office. As part of our research, we asked job seekers what mattered most to them when looking for a new role. And we saw the following come out as the top 3 most important. And this ties into a bigger story about company culture, which points an interesting picture of candidates' priorities when looking for a new role. 40% consider company culture a top priority. And from being 7 years at LinkedIn, I truly understand what a unique company culture and how important it is to lead with your company culture, especially when we're trying to attract and retain talent. So it might be time to start thinking at how you can build and improve your company's culture and look at ways to be front and center about it in company posts, job listings. After all, it's clearly important to candidates in your marketplace. Flexibility, and there's is a word we're seeing trend. And there's a widespread move to working from home means many people have adapted new ways of working over the past 18 months. You've heard it many times over. So a return to their previous way of working could mean another major adjustments and upheaval, especially for those balancing work and family life. The old way of work is over. Change is here to stay. And as Paddy, the VP of Future of Work of Unilever, told us, flexibility is the way forward. Employees want flexibility in when, where, and how they work, and are more willing to find it with other employees if they aren't getting it from their own, and hence the trigger of the Great Reshuffle. This lines up with what we've seen globally. When employees are satisfied with their company's time and location flexibility, they're 2.6 times more likely to report being happy and 2.1 times more likely to recommend working for that company, according to global data. In the office, one size fits all is not likely to fit anyone, as the notion of a 9-to-5 office with everyone on site becomes completely outdated. Flexibility is a path to building a workforce that focuses more on performance than presenteeism. And while not every role is geared towards remote work, flexibility can be offered in other ways, whether it's job sharing, shift work, or compressed working weeks. There are other ways to help your employees shape work around their personal lives. So flexibility seems to be the word of the moment when discussing the future of the workforce. However, we've seen fluctuating levels of engagement on LinkedIn when brands deliver this message. We've witnessed an 84% increase in the number of job posts which mention flexibility since 2019, a 343% uplift in mentions of flexibility in company posts on the platform. And we've actually seen a significant decrease in engagement with company posts which discuss flexibility in the same time period. And it's important to consider your audience and your message when discussing flexibility, as we've seen various levels of engagement in company posts mentioning flexibility. in comparison to regular posts in different markets around the world. So Gen Z, a 77% increase in interest from this generation, a 30% increase in interest from millennials. However, interest in flexibility from Gen Z users dropped by 5%, and interest from baby boomers dropped by 31%. Very important to note. So remote work has become the new norm. We're aware of that. 81% of 500 plus C-level executives, which LinkedIn surveyed in the US and the UK, are changing their policies to offer greater flexibility. And building a hybrid workforce takes careful planning to ensure remote workers have what they need to be productive, feel connected, and are treated equitably. You know, as individuals are starting to move back to the office, we're starting to see some challenges with regards to those and inclusion. Really, the overall challenge we see is inclusion, and those in the office and those who are not in the office need to be treated the same. And this is a new challenge, which I'm certainly starting to experience in the team that I work with. So here's how we can make it work. We need to establish guidelines for how to treat remote workers. Guides like IBM's work from home pledge that you might have seen, which they laid out during the dark days of the pandemic to help prioritize employees' physical and emotional health. Creating a level playing field for all employees, ensuring work from home employees aren't overlooked when it comes to career and salary progression. And this is pointing to what I mentioned earlier. We need to reinforce employee bonds with virtual events. Remote work can place demands on company culture, but virtual events can foster social connection. From a tech perspective, we recently started to leverage an interesting tool called Glimpse as a kind of an icebreaker in our team and our team meetings. And there's some super clever tech which has been invented to help just foster that social connection or that almost personal connection, because relationships truly matter. And we need to focus on results, not work hours. So reward your team for their ability to meet the goals rather than hours spent at the desk. We need to help employees set boundaries. I've learned the hard way on myself with a career that I'm incredibly passionate around, as well as a busy family, as I'm sure many of you have as well. And a challenge for us all, saying goodbye to live meetings. With employees working out of sync, with remote workforce and talent across the globe sitting in different time zones, we need to find ways to communicate and being creative on how we rally our employees around the communication and the topics that they need to know. So Unilever has blended full-time and contract work into something new and provocative with the pilot program called UWork. This created a new type of hybrid employee who can enjoy the flexibility of contract work with some of the security and benefits of being full-time. UWork employees are paid per assignment, as well as receiving a monthly retainer and a suite of benefits. UWork has already attracted 57 employees in the UK, 1% of the company's UK workforce within its first year. And companies are learning that their own well-being is closely linked to the employees' mental, physical, emotional, and financial well-being, and are finding ways to show that they care. And as part of our research, we spoke to Jen Fisher, the Chief Wellbeing Officer for Deloitte, who said, in the workplace, we shouldn't add value and celebrate the people who stay up all night and burn the midnight oil, because that doesn't really produce great results for the longer term. It's not a sustainable model. And empathy must be a pillar. Globally, employees who feel cared for at work are 3.2 times more likely to feel happier at work and 3.7 times more likely to recommend working for the company. But well-being is more about yoga, more about just yoga classes or even health insurance. It's about making compassion a pillar of your company culture. A critical driver of this is the flexibility we talked about earlier. Beyond that, you must be compassionate by giving time back, offering well-being services, and even rethinking processes such as shortening or eliminating meetings. These initiatives address the reality that it's hard to have a healthy, productive culture without a healthy, productive workforce. And globally, more companies on LinkedIn are discussing well-being in posts and in the job ads they're posting, and more people are engaging with this content, especially women. In light of International Women's Day, just a few weeks ago, we witnessed a 147% increase in the share of job posts mentioning well-being, and a 73% increase in company posts about well-being in September 2021 versus September 2019. And in September 21, we also saw a 5% increase in engagement with posts that mention well-being, while there was a 41% increase in engagement from women specifically when it came to well-being posts. And during the days of forced lockdowns, as employees faced health scares and struggled to balance work and family, employers offered extra days to help ease the stress. Today, companies are prioritizing time off, and they're adopting new strategies to encourage employees to check out and recharge. So here's some ideas to consider. Give workers time in their day. Encourage time blocks in their calendars, or agree to no meeting periods. Today is no meeting day at LinkedIn. It's Friday. I'm very excited because I have no meetings. I've got a lot to get done, but the whole company's agreed that there's no meetings today. So it's going to be a good day. We need to carve out some time for a company shutdown. We need to train managers to be empathetic leaders. Many companies are training people leaders to spot signs of emotional distress and offer support, because they're at the front lines of engaging and managing your workforce. We need to make mental health services accessible and reduce the stigma around taking care of your mental health. We need to use people analytics to identify problems. This is very interesting area of HR tech increasingly. And we need to look at patterns like after work hours and meeting overload that can lead to burnout and stress. And I'm part of an interesting work stream with the likes of Microsoft and the Viva platform, which really is uncovering some based on Teams and based on the access to the data that Microsoft has, which is publicly being shared in terms of what, and a lot of you are probably Viva users, but really telling a lot on this point. And what about considering a 4-day work week? Many companies have successfully introduced a 4-day work week where we're focusing on results over hours and giving staff more time to live outside work. So this is quite interesting to what we're doing at LinkedIn. We launched a program called Lift Up to address issues like burnout, anxiety, and social disconnection, which have been accelerated over the past 24 months or so. So we have an always-on resource hub, a series of fun events, a frequent gift of time. So we have several days in the next 3 or 4 months, several Fridays where we have either a half day or we have the entire day off, not just no meeting day. And last year we had a company-wide shutdown week in April. This was designed to put the spark back into the workplace and to the employees. And Nina, our VP of Benefits and Employee Experience, said the surprises and delights were meant to put back the spark in everyone, lift our heads up higher, and create some fun along the way. And this timeline showed some of the key highlights of Lift Up, and how a few events over the course of a year can have a massive impact on your team's well-being. And we spaced them out. We focused on a few big events that would have the most impact rather than a great amount of minor changes, and the benefits of which might be hard to quantify, but I know based on my team that they were incredibly well received, and many came back refreshed, recharged, and productivity levels were greatly increased after some time off. The pandemic has spurred employees to prioritize their well-being and to seek more agency over when they work. And that's what I mentioned earlier. This is the trigger for what we call the Great Reshuffle, or what is also known as the Great Resignation. As our Chief People Officer, Twila Hansen, says, we have the singular opportunity to create the culture and the circumstances that will allow each employee to do their best work and to lead their best life. Workers are changing jobs, hoping for something more, whether that's purpose, flexibility, or empathy. So organizations that are clinging to old habits are likely to miss out. And this is moving a lot faster than we had imagined. And our CEO, Ryan Ruslansky, said, it's really a time when everyone is rethinking everything. Business leaders are rethinking their entire working models, cultures, company values. Employees are rethinking not just how they work, but why they work. And according to the Microsoft 2021 Work Trend Index, 41% of global employees said they were likely to consider leaving their jobs within 12 months, 41%. And we see that many of those already taking action through the data and the analytics and the workforce data that we see. And labor shortages have proven this to be true, hampering industries across the world from China to Germany to the US, where a record 4.3 million workers quit their jobs in August alone. If we look across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, around 20% more workers changed their jobs between August and October 21 versus the same period in 2019. And this trend is not slowing down or not changing. This is below the global average of 41%, but it's still a significant increase. Over the last few years, the importance of having a great company culture has shone through, with many companies even focusing on a culture fit as an integral part of their culture interviewing. And I know a lot of us also talk about culture add when it comes to our interviewing. So if culture is key to winning the war for talent, what can you do to unlock its potential? We need to listen to our people. Leverage the people who know your culture best, your employees. We need to be willing to change our messaging. Listen to what your employees want. It's as simple as looking at the data and altering your message. We need to get our leaders to start speaking up, especially on the platforms where our employees are spending a lot of their times. One might be LinkedIn, based on the engagement that we're seeing across Africa. We are recommending, and we're running a lot more social leadership sessions with business leaders to help them start leveraging the platform to engage not just their own people, but all of their critical stakeholders of the organization. And we need to be talking about culture as part of that content mix. We need to pressure test your employee value proposition. What does that mean? This should reflect what your employees value to attract candidates who will enrich your culture. And we need to also ensure that what we are portraying our organization to be is the reality when they join. So we need to be authentic and inspire people in new ways to attract or retain talent. It's better to be vulnerable than invincible. And onboarding is critical. We need to invest in onboarding as you adjust to new ways of working. Getting onboarding right, especially in the virtual world, is critical. And Instacart recently launched a well-being program, giving employees the chance to unplug with a company shutdown and an extra time off around Labor Day. And Denise, who's Senior Manager of Recruitment Marketing and for Instacart, said they wanted to know, how does your team encourage people to sign off? How do you respect boundaries? These are the things they really lean into when we talk about their employer brand. They encourage their teams to share on LinkedIn how they use their time off and compile these stories into a blog post. This harks back to what I mentioned previously about getting your people, not just your brand, to talk about culture. Your people need to be the vehicles for your messaging because we know it's authentic. Because of this blog post, they saw 4,000 engagements with LinkedIn self-checkout content in the first 2 days after employees returned to work. So the conclusion is that company culture is undergoing a watershed moment. The main thing we've witnessed across all markets is that we're only moving forward. We're not going back to old times. And this is an important chance for you to reevaluate your corporate culture, respond to what candidates really want, focus on flexibility and well-being. And this can help you strengthen your employer brand, not only attract new talent, but retain the people you have, which is very, very important. As the Great Reshuffle has shown, employees won't wait around for these conditions to be perfect. They're more than happy to leave to find something that suits their lifestyle and their interests. They will vote with their feet. So as we conclude, we've unlocked some LinkedIn learning courses, which I will share with the team to share with you all to help you on your journey to reinventing company culture. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to address any questions, but I really hope that the content shared this morning helps shed some light on this watershed moment that we all face as HR professionals, and in many ways how HR technology can help solve the challenges that I've mentioned. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and really ask if there's any questions or answers that I can help with, or conversations that need to be had.
All right, thank you, Matthew. That was a splendid presentation. It's good to hear that a lot has been happening. A lot is happening around organizations looking at culture and also how well they can develop their talents. Well, we hope that within the context of Africa, we will be able to embrace this and also try and see how well we can evolve and try to adapt into the new norm of working of the workplace, and see how we can retain our talents and also definitely attract new talent. Thank you very much for the well-said presentation. So I have a question here that says, what is the trend of the Great Reshuffle? Where are employees moving to? That's the first question.
So where are employees moving to?
Yes.
So, and if I look at the data from Africa specifically, there's kind of two trends that we see on this side. One is employees are moving to other organizations that exist within their geography. So if I think of South Africa, if I think of maybe Cape Town, where I'm from, you know, there's many in-demand skills and many companies looking for the same types of talent. So employees are changing companies within the regions that exist. The second accelerating change that we see is Africa as a talent pool for remote workers globally. There's companies such as remote.com and others that are allowing global organizations to virtually land and expand in Africa and hire skills. And the keynote of this is digital skills. So if I look in the US, if I look in the EU, if I look in APAC, where there is a mismatch between the supply and there's greater demand and supply for the talent through remote working, companies are able to go to regions such as Africa and employ people who are employed through a US firm or an APAC or an EU firm. This is accelerating at a rate of knots. So no longer is the war for talent just in our backyard. This is a global war for talent. And hence why I'm really preaching that, as companies in Africa, we need to really embrace these changes to be competitive globally versus just what was a previous kind of local competition. And that's changing the game.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions are pouring in at the moment. The next question from Jennifer says, everyone talks about company culture and how HR needs to help promote company culture. I think the culture stems from the leadership. How do you ensure the leadership demonstrates the right culture for others to emulate?
Great question. And increasingly, when we're in a virtual environment, it's been maybe a slight shift. But I can just think of what we've done at LinkedIn is we do quarterly engagement. First of all, we understand the sentiment of our workforce by using our own tool called Glint, which our customers use as well to understand the sentiment of their workforce. And there's a feedback loop happening. So we understand what our people are saying. We then have several ways that we communicate with our people from our company leaders. So we have a bi-weekly company all hands as an example, which is a direct engagement with our C-level who sits across the globe, mostly on the West Coast of the US. And then we have multiple communication channels and access to our company leaders, where they're given the opportunity to share their thoughts, their insights, and emulate the culture. And this is all cascaded through to management layers where we've been given focused training since the onset of the pandemic to help navigate a tricky time, certainly when it comes to employee empathy and these types of areas where many managers might excuse me, not have had the training to kind of support. Excuse me. So it's kind of a new direction, but pretty much from our leadership level all the way through, we are trained and there's alignment. And I'm not saying we're perfect, but it's work in progress to get this right.
Thank you very much for the response. I think we'll just take one more question and then we wrap it all up. Okay, so this is quite another question, quite a mouthful. It says in Africa, we have a more difficult economic terrain to work with, which means that even if we want to embrace a more considerate company culture that supports employees' lifestyle, business would most likely suffer, which I think it is what drives most employers to keep people in the office in the hopes that they will achieve more. However, employee disengagement is really high, and the lack of employment options is what keeps people in the office. Did you get that?
Absolutely, and it's a fascinating time where, and I think there's certain roles that are more kind of office centric. So we need to be in the office to perform the roles that we need to, and vice versa. There's also some roles that are a bit more remote friendly. So I can only speak from our experience where the teams have done an audit in terms of understanding which roles are more, where those individuals can do their best work, and then ultimately building around on the hybrid workforce policies applying those to individuals. But this is a very, we're challenging the fundamentals of the way we work, which has been accelerated in the past 2 years. And I'm not saying we're in there's a traditional mindset here, but I'm just saying we need to be open to this change. But I do completely respect that, not every single role needs to embrace the likes of flexibility, and there might be a certain dial which goes up or down depending on the types of roles and the types of industry that you're in. So this is an evolving space, but I think it's important to understand the sentiment of your people, your leaders, and try and meet in the middle to ensure that you are retaining the talent that you have.
Fantastic. So I think we just have time for just one more question. So I'll just go ahead with that. Damilola wants to know, how can HR kickstart the change process of rebranding the company's culture, and what type of support should HR be seeking for on this change journey?
Yes, so I have shared, there were certainly a few tips in my presentation around, I could speak all day on this topic in terms of what we need to do, but in terms of just keeping it's simple. I think what we mentioned earlier is just going back to how to make flexibility work, establishing guidelines for how to treat remote workers, creating a level playing field for all employees. So to ensure that, work from home employees aren't overlooked when it comes to career or salary progression, reinforce employee bonds with virtual events, focus on results, not work hours, help employees set boundaries, say goodbye to live meetings, understand the concept of asynchronous communication if that's relevant to you. But ultimately, it's being the change driver internally. So understanding if change is required, and putting in some, maybe as a phase one, some basic changes or recommending some changes based on what I mentioned, and then accelerating those changes thereafter. The LinkedIn learning courses that we've unlocked for you on this conference go into a lot of detail based on what I've mentioned, and I think will really help HR professionals navigate this change. I will share this with Ayan or Tayo yourself after the session to ensure that we can cascade this to the audience.
Thank you very much, Matthew. I think you've done you've done justice to the topic. Personally, I believe that in terms of culture and evolving into the new norm, it's actually going to take a lot of time. But then it's never too early to start to drum it into the ears of people that we need to ensure that we move from the conventional way of work that we are used to into what the new way of work should be. So it's really been an interesting presentation. Thank you very much for taking our time to present this topic to us. And we hope that when next we call you, you will make yourself available. And lastly, I hope the slides will be shared as well.
Absolutely. So I will share with Ayan the slides, which include the unlocked courses. And I'm super passionate about these topics. So I'm happy to help where possible to really help our region accelerate the change as we see changes happening in other parts of the world take shape. Africa tends to follow thereafter. So thank you very much for having me this morning. Good luck for the rest of your conference and take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.